Phones that fold out to give you a tablet kind of form factor. Phones with two screens. Phones with screens that fold inwards to transform into a more compact form factor. We've got phones with a ton of mods to add more functionality. Now, given how popular smartphones have become over the last decade or so, we've seen mainstream manufacturers try a whole lot of things. Hey guys, Ash here from C4E Tech, and today we're going to take a look at 7 weird niches that smaller manufacturers have tried to cater to with varying degrees of success. Number 1 on this list is definitely going to blow your mind. Let's start off at number 7, small phones. When you hear the term small phones, you're probably thinking 5.4 inches, the iPhone mini, or 5.9 inches, the Zenfone 10. But nah, I'm talking smaller, much smaller, 2.5 inch, 3-inch screens. Unihertz is probably the biggest brand you might have heard of that does these phones. I remember Mr. Mobile covering one of these models a few years back, but there are actually quite a few small brands doing these kind of phones. Now, none of these phones have great specs, but I don't think a spec-oriented demographic is gonna really be interested in this niche, because a lot of what you can do with a phone is directly related to the screen real estate on hand. Think about it. Are you really gonna wanna play PUBG or Call of Duty Mobile on a 3-inch screen? Now that said, these make for nice little secondary phones, or ones you might wanna carry on a family trip to kinda disconnect. You know, times where you want to force yourself to reduce how long you spend looking at screens. What better way to do that than make the screens actually smaller? For a period of time, BlackBerry was one of the most popular phone manufacturers. You weren't considered a real businessman if you didn't carry a BlackBerry. Remember those times? Now, as touchscreen technology evolved, the display sizes grew and physical keyboards ended up going out of fashion. Now that said, there are still some people who prefer the feel of a physical keyboard over the virtual ones we use every day. And for these people, there are a couple of brands like FX Tech and Unihertz that we saw earlier. They still do provide options. Hell, the Astro Slide actually comes with a mechanical keyboard built in. Now, just like with the small phones we saw, these two come with very average SoCs. Now guys, that's gonna be a running theme here with all these niche phones, and that's because it's very hard for small manufacturers to score high-end chips, even ones from the likes of MediaTek. So a lot of these are gonna be sporting either old MediaTek chips, or at best you'd see a Dimensity 800 or 1080 here and there. It's been a while since we saw a Yoda phone. That's probably because that company might have gone bankrupt. Now the Yoda phone, it was a cool concept. It had two screens, one regular LCD and another e-ink. Now e-ink displays are what you find on the likes of your Kindles and other ebook readers. Now what makes these screens special is the fact that they don't have a backlight and they are closer to paper than our regular phone displays. So theoretically, they're supposed to reduce eye strain. Now this is why Kindles are so popular. Now, if you're wondering why don't we see e-ink screens a lot more on phones, it's because they have a certain set of cons. For example, they have very low refresh rates. So watching videos or scrolling through Instagram Reels, that's gonna be a chore. But if you wanna read a lot while also keeping an eye on your mails and messages, that can be done. And that's exactly what Hisense lets you do. Now, unlike other brands on this list, Hisense is not a small brand. In fact, I'm sure you would have seen a Hisense TV or two, or at least a rebranded Hisense TV in a mall you walk into, no matter where you live. But with smartphones, Hisense hasn't really done much of note outside of these phones with e-ink displays, and they've been doing this for quite a while. In fact, Hisense even offers colored e-ink versions of their phones. They're pretty innovative and interesting. Sadly though, to anyone looking to import these, it's absolutely not possible to get Google services onto these phones, so using them outside China might be a little difficult. Now, if you do find e-ink and e-paper technology interesting, I'd actually recommend checking out TCL's NextPaper devices. Now, these are not exactly e-ink panels, but what TCL has done is take LCD screens, do a few things where you end up with a display that kind of looks like e-ink but is not exactly e-ink, so it doesn't give you all the advantages of e-ink, but it also doesn't come with the same disadvantages. Maybe I'll talk more about these in another video. Beat it up. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you can. Yes, you read that right. While these are technically phones, to me at least they feel more like power banks which have phone functionality. This, for example, is the Doji V Max, a MediaTek Dimensity 1080 powered phone with a 22,000 milliamp hour battery. It weighs in at a whopping 570 grams. To give you some perspective, this is the ROG Ally. This weighs in at 600ish grams. This is a 11-inch Xiaomi Pad 6, which weighs in at 490 grams. I hope you get why I call these phones power banks that also have phone functionality. So with these, you can end up with 5-6 day battery life. Say you're outdoors a lot, you go trekking, hiking, finding a place to charge isn't a given. That's where phones like these come in. Now, some of these even happen to be rugged, and that brings us to number 3, rugged phones. Now, Samsung's kinda abandoned the active line, and for the most part, it's become an accepted reality that these devices we spend thousands of dollars on, we drop them, there's a good chance we're screwed. If you hate that reality and refuse to accept it, then you are amongst a small subset of people that these niche brands target. Now, there is some overlap amongst these categories. For example, there are small phones that come with rugged builds. And then there are a lot of these 20,000 plus milliamp hour phones that come with rugged builds too. But the story is quite simple. These phones, they sport IP ratings. They are built with a lot of protection around to be able to take drops. Brands call them shock-proof, drop-proof. And sometimes they even have some extra functionality built in, like more powerful than your regular flash kind of lights and so on. But here's the but. These are small niche brands, so oftentimes these phones don't fare much better than your regular phones with heavy cases on. In fact, a few years back, I remember Mr. Who's the Boss doing a very interesting video on these rugged phones. I'll find a link to that and leave it in the description below. Do check that out. It was a good watch. Environment friendly. Now that's a phrase that's come to annoy me so much. And that's because brands have been misusing it more and more over the past few years. How can you be environment friendly and remove chargers while also clamping down on repairability? That's hypocrisy at its finest, isn't it? Now, there is one brand who's actually been environment friendly for real. That's Fairphone. Now, this is the Fairphone 5. It comes with a 5-year warranty. It's got guaranteed updates for 8 years, 5 years of Android version updates, 3 years of security patches, which happens to be much more than what the industry leader Samsung and now even Xiaomi is offering. More than 70% of this phone is made out of fair or recycled materials, and most importantly, no part of this phone is glued shut. So it's easy to repair, and the brand actually wants us to repair it ourselves. So it really looks like a sustainable phone that minimizes our impact on the environment. Now, unlike other phones on this list, the spec sheet for this one, it's actually not that bad. It's got a 6.46-inch 1.5K AMOLED panel with a 120Hz refresh. There's a triple camera setup with the Sony IMX800 as its primary. If you can remember which other flagship uses this same sensor, let me know in the comments. For the processor, they've gone with Qualcomm's QC-M6490 SoC. Now, this might seem unfamiliar to you since it's an industrial IoT processor that they had to choose in order to be able to support the product for 8 years. Now, you can think of it as a slightly better version of the Snapdragon 778G that we've seen on the likes of the Nothing Phone 1. Of course, the Fairphone 5 is pretty expensive for what it offers, but if you want to get a phone with as minimal an impact on the environment as possible, one you can use for a long time, then the Fairphone, I dare say, does a fair job. Now, as much as I like the concept of the Fairphone, the next one on this list I absolutely hate. Now, if you just wanted to show off the fact that you're rich and you don't really give a damn about the actual tech, then you've got brands like Vertu who let you do just that. Now, this is the iVertu Himalaya Happy, and it costs a whopping 68,800 US dollars. That's about 57 lakh Indian rupees. You thought folds were expensive? Well, you've got this. It's got decent specs, a Snapdragon 888, 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, but the cost is mainly for the fact that the back, it's got 18 karat gold and diamonds. Now, if you wanted something cheaper, well, they do offer you cheaper options for like 3,500 US dollars, 3 lakhs or so. You can get phones with real leather, carbon fiber. And then there is this, a ruby button, a sapphire screen, alligator or lizard skin material, dedicated ringtones from the London Symphony Orchestra, and even your own private assistant service. all for about $100,000. 80 plus lakh rupees. And the phone, it's a dumb phone. 2-inch QVGA, 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of storage, micro USB. Well, at least it's eco-friendly and comes with a user replaceable battery. Guys, I'll leave a link to Virtu's site in the description. Just go through the list of phones and the asking prices. I'm sure it'll make you feel better about the latest iPhone pricing. Anyways, jokes apart, before we wrap, a couple of honorable mentions. We've got walkie-talkie phones. Again, it overlaps with some of the niches we've seen in this video. But if shortwave communication is something is important to you, there are phones that offer it. And then you've got phones with an IR camera. So if that's something you need, hey, it's there. And then finally, we've got the cheapest phone we are gonna see today, the No Phone. This costs just $10 because it's not really a phone, it's just a slab of plastic that's supposed to help you beat the habit of always having a phone in hand. Now they also offer a No Phone Air and a No Phone Selfie. I mean, just read through this website if you have the time, it's hilarious. Again, link in the description. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Are there any more niches you think I could have covered here? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.